We are back with a monthly stocks crypto update, but I want to start off with the recent Tesla layoff because it's been something that's emotionally triggered me a bit. Now, I'm not going to completely sit here and blame them and be like, they didn't have a right to do a layoff. You own a company, you can do whatever you want. And plus, I don't know what the severance package looks like for a lot of these employees. Tesla mass layoffs will include over 6,000 in Texas and California. More than 2,600 Tesla workers in Austin and 3,300 across California will be laid off as part of the EVs makers' cuts to 10% of its global workforce. EVs have been under quite a bit of pressure recently because of the fact that not as much buyers, they're trying to do price cuts. The enthusiasm amongst buyers is just not quite there. That is globally. Tesla is not the only one suffering. I look at Nikola, for example, right? It's at 62 cents low. I invest in them. You also have Lucid Motors, AV1. It's down quite a bit, like year to date, 40%. Let's look at NIO, which is in China. So this is how you know it's a global thing. It's not just a regional thing in the US. Year to date, they're down 54%. Now, I've been buying NIO slowly and surely because I want to capitalize on everything that's going on. Then you got XPeng, $7.08. Year to date, they're down 51%. So these, if you aggregate all of this, this is the signal that the EV space doesn't have as much demand right now. This you could look at as an opportunity for you to get some cheap, but you got to be willing to hold this for a long time. Rivian is another one. I've been looking at Rivian for some time, and at its peak, it was like at $180. But on average, it's ranging around like $13, $12, $15 per share, and now we're at $8.84. This is down 90%. The enthusiasm is not there, but I am seeing more Rivian on the road though. Will this have a comeback? I think it will eventually, with a combination, the fact that a lot of these EVs, they're incorporating a lot of AI technologies for the future. It might create some opportunities there, especially with Tesla. They have a lot of driving data, which we really cannot get away from. This is an opportunity. I look at it. You could buy more of an index fund if you're not sure which one to grab onto and you want to play it risk less and be very safe about it. But if you have particular ones you're interested about, you can purchase one individually. I don't own any ETFs, mutual funds, or index funds that are in the EV space exactly, but I do have these individual stocks that I mentioned. So where are we at right now? S&P 500 year to date is up 5%. It peaked at 5,300 and we are down just slightly, just a little bit. 40,000 it peaked and right now it's at 38,000. We're not live right now. This is all after hours, so the only thing we're seeing is the futures information. If we wanted to see actual data, so we could just do Dow. It closed at 38,000 today, and then Nasdaq closed at 15,000 today. Now I knew it was gonna peak around 16,000 and probably retract a little bit because it was just too hot from where it was at. SP 500, 5,000. So the futures are pretty close to where it actually is at. It's not much traction as we're seeing in terms of what's going on with the market as much. Interest rates. One thing I want to factor is interest rates because it does play a part in terms of where stock prices can potentially be hit. If the enthusiasm is not quite there with amongst home buyers and things like that, it could potentially affect certain things. So I usually check NACA because they're usually pretty accurate. Not the top numbers that you see like right here. It's really this tiny fine print right here. This tells you what the interest rate you would get. So 7.25. So it's over the 7% mark, meaning that there's not as much confidence. Borrowing is more expensive. Therefore, it puts a pressure on a lot of businesses, companies, not just homeowners, but companies as well who are trying to lend, bank institutions. A lot of like these banks, they do collaborate with other lenders, and you got all these other private lenders that are operating as well. So the federal interest rates is what we pretty much go off of, right? So this was from April 16th. We see it was at 5.5%. So interest rates for mortgages is 7.25 because they have to make some type of money on top of that. But lending across the board is just out of this world. Inflation has not been too crazy from what I've seen. because I can tell by the utilities around my home, insurance, they didn't go crazy. The only thing that went up slightly was the insurance, but everything else pretty much stabilized. So we're getting back to much more of that even flat. People adopting to this is a new norm. Inflation is quite high. Things got expensive, but we're adapting to where we are at right now. So I think it's reducing a lot of those pressures because people are just adjusting to how things are. With these layoffs happening, that's the only thing I think that can trigger the economy for a downturn. If more and more employees are laid off, they can't afford their homes, mortgages, and things like that, and we start seeing more foreclosures and people going through difficulties when it comes to their homes and things like that, this is when the economy can get triggered in those factors. So you have this whole supply and demand thing. Depending on if people have employment, it can trigger certain factors of the economy and therefore adjusting the market overall. Now let's dive into the stocks. PBR, it definitely got a bit of an uptick from last month, up 15%. I did dip in a lot more around this $14 mark, so I'm seeing the gain from where I was at before. Moving on to Grayscale, I don't own most of these. The ones I own is the large cap, BCHG, Bitcoin Trust, Litecoin Trust, etc. They have took a dive, and I'm actually looking forward to the dive because I just injected some money into retirement right around tax season so I can get the maximum tax deductible for retirement. So I have a good amount of cash sitting in there, and I think I can capitalize. Now, if I can get Bitcoin Cash Trust to be back at $2, it would be great. It would be fantastic, but I don't know if that's really realistic. But I would appreciate if it was low, even at $4, because I actually did buy some around $4. I was actually afraid a little bit. I was hesitant, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to pour all that money in there. So around $4, I did purchase some. But now it peaked all the way to like $20, $21, which is crazy. So I'm trying to get back in, and I'm hoping it could drop around that price. That would be great, which is like 2 months ago, if you think about it, that this hit this price. It's not that it's impossible, but it's been doing good for the most part. Even though it retracted, it does create an entry point. So if you wanted to buy into more, definitely go in. But I think for me, under the $10 mark, I'm going to watch it and potentially start slow and buy until it gets to the $4 mark. Then I'm going to get pretty aggressive when it comes to my retirement account. They're all pretty much down from where they are, but they are higher than from the beginning of the year. Like year to date for Litecoin Trust is up double, right, from January, which is pretty nice. Semiconductors are cooling off a little bit, as we could see, which I anticipated. It peaked around 1200 for super micro computers, and now we're at 750. I'm no way going to buy this at its peak. Like, it's just crazy. And let's look at Nvidia, because they are the leading, like when it comes to AI semiconductors. They're still up quite a bit, 60%, but as you can see, they retracted a little bit from their peaks at almost $1,000. They're at about $800. Still way too high for me to purchase. I'm not looking forward to doing that. Meta, after hours today, they got a 15% hit. Most of these stocks, as you can see, they've been pretty flat. They go up a little bit, they come down, but the momentum is just not quite strongly there to the point where it's like we have a strong market rally. Now let's jump into crypto. Binance year to date, right? Let's look at the 6-month mark. They are up from January. It was around 300. It doubled actually from January to now about, which is a good sign. Crypto has been doing pretty good from considering from year to date. Solana's up about 50% from year to date, 94 to 150 right now, which is Shiba Inu. From January, it pretty much quite double, which is nice. I have some. I don't have a whole lot, but I do have some. Near from $3.30 till $6.80, it doubled, which is pretty nice. And now I did buy a lot of near around this November mark, because when I saw it hit $1, I was like, this is an opportunity. I'm looking forward to near getting to like the $60 mark at some point in the future. So I'm banking on that. Then you got Cadena. From January it was $1.22 to now being 91 cents. So it went down. It did peak $2 at one point, but it's just not quite there yet. I still believe in it. Dogecoin, from January it doubled. It's a good sign for that. Litecoin has been pretty relaxed, conservative. From January it went up like 33% from $66, right, to $83, about a third, not a whole lot. So crypto has been leveling off quite a bit. Bitcoin from January, it was at $40,000 per coin. So it went up about 50%. This is what's driving a lot of the crypto market. Like whenever you see Bitcoin go up, everything just shoots up. It's like the index fund for crypto. So where are we with our portfolio that we started back in December of 2023? If you haven't been following, we created and mocked this portfolio, which consisted of both crypto investments and stock investments. There is one at $1,000 value and another one at $10,000 value. We purchased this. You can go back to the other videos where I initially set the configuration of this at the prices that I indicated. So this is what this is tracking now. So with our $1,000 portfolio, we see we're only up 16%, which is pretty good because there's been a lot of swings. At its peak, we're up about 40%, almost 50%. Crypto is doing okay, so it's the driving factor of our portfolio right now. We see that we are down in a lot of the other stocks. So VRAR, they're more of a risky stocks. A friend of mine told me about it. It's more in the virtual reality experimental space. I do think in the long run it's going to be worth some value, so that's why we allocated some towards that. Beyond Meat, personal choice because I'm vegan. I do enjoy the fact that they make chickpea-based meat. It's not soy-based, so it's a bit healthier than the soy options that are out there. Then you got Lore. They're in the law technology space. They actually provide this technology because I had spoken to them at one point to help lawyers go through documents and actually categorize things, tag things, and scan them much quicker than they would manually do it. So if anything arises for a particular court case, they can find the relevant information quicker. Rivian car company, I've been seeing a lot much more of them on the road, so I actually purchased some more around Monday. They went up a bit and then they hit a bit of a down too. Xpeng, long-term gain for me. Jemiah, they're still in the green, which is great. I'm really happy that I purchased them. I think they're a long game because they are in the e-commerce space. They did shut down a portion of their business, but I do think they may give Amazon a run for their money. Maybe not globally, but at least in Africa. They're pretty powerful over there. Then you got Nikola in the car space. They're a long-term game. They've received a lot of rounds of investments, but I do think there's a possibility for them to be pretty successful in the EV space in the future. And lastly, you got Lab, which is the biotech company, which I've always strongly believed in. They did a lot of mergers and collaborations, partnerships with different companies to get to this point where they are at right now. But long term, I do think they're going to shoot up to be at a much higher value. So we are up 16%, which is still higher than inflation, which is good because we are only in month 4 of our investment journey. Be hopeful. Don't pay attention to look at this every single day because it's going to make you go nuts. This is why we check in on a monthly basis, not a weekly, not every day. And as you see some of these stocks probably drop, if you are interested, of course, do your own research and do your own due diligence. Purchase some at a discount, right? If you believe in the company and what it stands for, you understand a lot of the metrics that are going around. I do encourage to keep buying the dip, is what they call this, the terminology inside of the industry, right? Buy the dip, get in there. So that way you can capitalize when it shoots back up. This is where we're at. Stay motivated, stay strong out there. Keep yourself. Don't get discouraged at all. Just know that there is always going to be ups and downs throughout market cycles. But you got to be patient, be persistent, consistent, and don't give up. Like, share, subscribe if you did find this insightful. The thumbs up would really be appreciated to help this video get across to others who might potentially benefit from this. Peace and love. Trust in Jesus. Have an amazing one. Hustle, 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 stay.